The Baylor Bears are going to knock off John Calipari's Arkansas Razorbacks tomorrow, and it's going to prove that this team didn't go anywhere, but they're back. Let's get Locked On Baylor.
You are Locked On Baylor, your daily podcast on the Baylor Bears. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, Bears fans. Welcome to another episode of Locked On Baylor, brought to you by FanDuel and part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it is your team every day. I'm your host, Cam Stewart of ESPN Central Texas and the Cam Show on YouTube, which is powered by Rogue Media Sports Network. Appreciate y'all making it your first listen today and every day. We've got a preview of another top 20 basketball matchup tomorrow as the Bears take on the Arkansas Razorbacks, and it might be like looking in the mirror. Plus, a big-time receiver from the state of Texas and playing in the SEC has entered into the transfer portal. Baylor should be after him. And another big-time news in the SEC around college football, Billy Napier staying at Florida. What does that mean for the future of Dave Aranda? And did Florida look towards Dave Aranda's situation? All that and more coming up on this episode of Locked On Baylor. It is time for the men's basketball team to not exactly hit the reset button, but, put out a different effort tomorrow as they travel up to the AAC and take on number 16, Arkansas. 2 games on the season, 2 Hall of Fame coaches, 2 top 20 opponents. Obviously, it did not go the way Baylor was hoping for on Monday. We have been over that. 101-63 is never the way you want it to go, no matter the situation. And no matter how much you thought the odds were stacked up against Baylor in that game, which I think they were to some extent. If we're being totally honest, I didn't expect Baylor to win that game, but I thought it was going to be more of a fight. And I thought we were going to learn more about this team. And I know it's probably the sincere hope for y'all as well, but I really hope that we didn't learn too much about this team. That it was, hey, game 1, these guys have never played together kind of deal. From what we could see watching on the broadcast, I think there was absolutely some of that. But we've already talked about the effort and the movement without the ball and lack thereof and all those kinds of things. And so I watched Arkansas last night, or Wednesday night as you're listening to this, not last night. But I'm watching Arkansas play Lipscomb, and I watched a good 20 to 25 minutes real time of this game. And yeah, it's probably closer to a half hour real time of this game. More than I ever would if they were not playing Baylor on Saturday. And I don't want to say they weren't good, Arkansas, by any means. And I don't even want to say they were as bad as Baylor was, but they weren't that much better. This is a team that's all playing together for the first time. Like all 5 of them are new Razorbacks, new teammates, not 4 out of 5 starters. They're all new to this program. You remember during the introductory press conference, John Calipari said, there is no team. There's one guy back there. Gene Hackman had a better roster situation with the Hickory Huskers than John Calipari did walking into Arkansas. And anytime I can use a Hoosiers reference, I'm going to. And they looked like a team that was disconnected. And obviously that's very understandable. And I'm sitting here watching it Wednesday night and thinking, yeah, you know what? I kind of give them a pass here. And it made me think, should I have given Baylor more of a pass? Number 8 ranked team in the country losing by 38. Should I have? I'm not going to. I gave them enough slack. But Arkansas, in that first game, I was like, really? Yeah. If they play like this against Baylor, I think Baylor's going to beat them. And what you have are 2 teams that are looking in the mirror, right? And they see one another. They see the same problems, new coaching staff, new players, trying to get adjusted on the fly. Baylor played the number 6 team in the country on the road, a true road game, and Arkansas played Lipscomb at home. That's how these things shake out, for one being a 38-point loss and the other being a 16-point win. But a win is a win. And they went out there and got a win. It was so inspiring, in fact. Here's what John Calipari said to recap the game 1 win over Lipscomb.
How about this thought? Make a 3. Takes me out every time I make a mistake. No, I don't. CBS is covering the game.
Threes. But
What? Because the guy wants, I'm going to start this. Give it to Jimmy. He has to come back. No, he doesn't. I have not watched that game. It's too late. I was in bed. What? Why would you do that? And as you get older, it really. So they called a timeout. Whoo. So you have no questions? Now that I
just waiting for you to stop talking.
What? Go block that ball. How about that statement?
Really couldn't have said it any better myself, Cal. Couldn't have said it any better. Wow. He really knows how to paint a picture. Now, when looking back at the box score, I think there are some things that could be, cause for concern from the Arkansas standpoint. By the way, I know some of you are getting hyped up to see our old pal Jonas Adu, the one who was 100% crystal ball to Baylor, transferring out of Tennessee this past spring. Remember, they had gotten Jeremy Roach. It's like, oh my gosh, they're going to get Jonas Adu too? Nope. He goes to Cal, Arkansas. Bears get Norchad Omier, which I think is going to be a pretty good substitute, if you can call it that. He is still battling back from an injury. He only played 7 minutes against Lipscomb. If you're only playing 7 minutes against Lipscomb and you're playing Baylor a few days later, who knows how much of the floor he's going to see. 1 rebound, 2 points in 7 minutes. Obviously, the 2 big transfers other than Adu coming in this year, and there were plenty of transfers, obviously, Boogie Fland and John L. Davis. John L. Davis could well have been the number 1 transfer in the portal. They did the heavy lifting offensively. They scored 32 of the 76 points that the Hogs put up at Bud Walton Arena. So they went out, got their 17 and 15 points each, and they looked like the undoubted leaders of this team on the court and certainly in the stats as well. Here's where it gets kind of not good specifically, outside of the Adu injury. They only shot 21% from 3. And that's been a problem with Arkansas the last couple of years. They didn't shoot a lot of threes. In fact, I remember that team coming in 2023, the Farrell Center, led by Jordan Walsh. They really, really struggled from 3. And Baylor kind of kept them in that game for a long time. I think Bears only won by 1. And so you've seen it the last couple of years, and it's been kind of lean the last couple of years. It's been real up and down for Arkansas. And we thought Baylor's 11 assists in the loss over Gonzaga was bad, right? I mean, a lot of ISO ball. They only had 23 baskets in the whole game, and they only had 11 assists with that. Arkansas, on the other hand, had 34 made baskets and only 10 assists. We thought 11 on 23 was bad because it's not great to have an 11 assists for the whole game. How about making 11 more baskets and having 1 less assist? If the ISO ball is bad for Baylor, the way I was talking about it yesterday, and I believe it, and I'm hoping that changes pretty quickly here, Arkansas is doing the same thing in game 1. They're doing the same thing. So that actually gave me some hope of, maybe that's a chemistry thing too. Now, I would have expected more from, a guy who started 90 games at point guard at Duke in Jeremy Roach, but I think it will get better. So you're looking at 2 teams trying to figure it out tomorrow, and 2 teams might figure it out tomorrow, but only one of them is going to get a win. And if you're Baylor, I know it's 2 tough games, but 0-2 with a number 8 ranking to start the season would be no bueno. No bueno whatsoever. And if that is the case, we can hang our hats on the fact that we're a football school. And this winning streak is great. The players that Baylor's bringing in next year are also great, but they could find another great one to bring in because he just hit the transfer portal yesterday. We'll tell you who that is coming up on Locked On Baylor. But first, today's episode of Locked On Baylor is brought to you by our pals over at LinkedIn. For those of you in the transfer portal for your job or you're hiring for your small business, the place to find the quality job, find the quality candidates for whichever side you're on is LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn ain't like any other job board, okay? They help you hire professionals you can't find anywhere else, even those who aren't actively searching for that new role, but might be perfect for it. In a given month, over 70% of LinkedIn users don't visit other leading job sites. 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. Hire professionals like a professional on LinkedIn. 2.5 million small businesses use LinkedIn for hiring. So post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That's linkedin.com/lockedon, COLLEGE, to post your job for free. Terms and conditions do apply. Things are going well for Baylor football right now, especially offensively. And who wouldn't want to play in this offense? The way that Spav has drawn it up, the way that Sawyer Robertson is delivering that thing, really shooting it the way Uncle Rico used to do back in the day, just firing it over them mountains. Who wouldn't want to come and play for this? Well, let's ask Jonte Davis. Jonte, I don't know who Jonte Davis is. Let's ask Jonte Cook, because I was thinking about John L. Davis. Let's ask Jonte Cook, the now former Texas Longhorn wide receiver. Boy, it would have helped if I didn't try like dramatic effect on that. Jonte Davis, Jonte Cook the second. And a bombshell news announces on Thursday that he has left the Texas football program. Transfer portal wasn't used right away, which I found interesting. It was been dismissed from the program. All the reports coming out are that it was a disagreement between Jonte Cook and the coaching staff, and that they just didn't get along. There's a disconnect there. And now he's fair game for anyone else looking for a playmaker at that position, because he was a big time recruit out of high school. He played at DeSoto, which is like a pro football factory, Division I Power 4 factory at this point. And he did get an offer from Baylor very early on, but he was a 4-star guy, one of the top recruits in all of Texas at any position. And it wasn't that long ago. Okay. It was 2 years ago. He's played a little bit each of his first 2 years at Texas, but he had a quite a scouting report coming out of high school, elite feel for the position, and way ahead of his age in technical acumen, as Gabe Brooks put it, playing for DeSoto and being right there at the formation of those state championship teams. But he has been, not the biggest playmaker, but someone who has been in the fold for UT the last 2 years, this year and last year. He's caught 8 balls in each season, almost identical stats, actually. 8 for 136 for 17 yards per catch last year, 8 receptions for 137 and 17.1 yards per catch this year, with a couple of touchdowns in 2024 as well. So I don't know if it was a dispute over playing time or something off the field or what, but all we know is that he's been dismissed from the program, but it sounds like almost a mutual thing, if there is such a thing at this level, of where he was not happy with his role in the team or with the coaching staff or whatever that may be. Baylor should give this kid a real look. And I know that sounds weird to say right after saying he was dismissed from the team, disagreements with the coaching staff, but I look at a guy like Michael Trigg, and the season is not done, but this story with Jonte Cook is very much like the one with Michael Trigg. Trigg left Ole Miss in the middle of the season last year. There were reports that he hadn't shown up to practice and kind of just walked out of there, walked out on his team. And we don't know the whole story with that. He hits the portal. Baylor gets him. He got suspended earlier this year, but Dave Aranda has spoken pretty glowingly about Michael Trigg since. He has made some big plays for Baylor since. And so I look at a situation like that. If Trigg can, stay out of trouble and help this team and be a leader on this team for the rest of the season, then you got to look at a similar situation with Jonte Cook. Again, this is not like a decade ago. These guys don't have felonies. They don't come with huge warning labels that we've heard of yet. But yeah, it's the elephant in the room. He got dismissed from the program. But this was a kid that Baylor was interested in out of high school, and they are going to need some help at that position. We have already seen the signs of intent this year because they already offered or are looking at a wide receiver from Indiana who hit the portal last month. So that is a position they are going to target. They got a couple of guys coming in this 2025 recruiting class. But when you look at the receiver position, Josh Cameron has another year at his disposal. But Hal Presley, Ketron Jackson, I think is how we're saying it this week, Monterey Baldwin, and Ashton Hawkins, all seniors. That's almost your whole receiving core right there. And again, you got some guys coming in. You got some, a couple, less than a handful that are returning that have made any plays this year. And you're going to have to hit the portal. You're going to have to hit the portal hard. And here you go. Here's a guy in your backyard who has proven to be a playmaker, big-time prospect out of high school. We always say sometimes they need a change of scenery. Sometimes they need a different coaching staff. And sometimes they need to transfer a place and slot in as the number one receiver. That's what we were thinking with Ketron Jackson, a guy who was a number 2 or 3 receiver at Arkansas, probably didn't get the shine he was hoping for. He comes here, he slots in as the number 1 receiver. Now he's had some injuries and it hasn't really worked out. But you look at a guy like Jonte Cook, and that could be the same situation. Guy needs a chance to get some more shine, be that number 1 target out there. And if he came to Baylor, it would be Josh Cameron and Jonte Cook. Those would be the top 2 guys you're looking at. So I say bring him into the facility. Have him take a look around. Meet the coaching staff. Meet Dallas Baker. See what we can't do with this kid. He is going to be one of them. I'm telling you, you might not love his stats. And you might say, Cam, why are we talking about this for a guy who has 16 catches in 2 years? I'm telling you, when we get to portal season, Jonte Cook is going to be one of the top names at that position. He is. He is going to be quite sought after. And if you don't see Baylor going after him, or if you don't see some other big name programs going after him, then there's more to this story. But for right now, we don't know a lot. And it could just be a case where he needs a new place. And he needs a chance to, be developed as a leader. And I think what Dave said about Michael Trigg when Trigg was suspended along with Steve Linton was curious in a good way. So he had said about those 2 guys, that there are some guys who, they come from other places and those places don't have the same, conduct or off the field standard that we have. And then he talked about 2 guys, and Linton and Trigg are both on college number 3, talking about this is their last chance. And they have to know that this is their last chance. And it might not have that same effect over someone who's only been to 1 school versus those guys having been to 2 already. But since then, nothing's come out from that locker room. So maybe it is a case where Dave Aranda was like, this is your last chance, guys. It's now or never. And if you mess up again, it's never. And maybe that is the kind of place they can be for Jonte Cook. But this kid can be a real playmaker. Again, I mean, he was a human highlight reel at DeSoto, which is playing like the top high school football in America, just about. Just like men against boys in 6A football in Texas. That is an absolute factory. So Devin Bobby is DeSoto Eagle. Von Miller played at DeSoto, if you remember that name. So plenty of great players coming out of there. Could Jonte Cook be the next one? And could he be that for the Baylor Bears? Certainly worth a look. Cook is worth a look. Speaking of Dave Aranda, there was some other news around college football today that I think links to Dave Aranda more than most of us believe. We'll tell you what that is coming up on Locked On Baylor. But first, Robinhood and Little John going through the forest. No, I'm talking about Robinhood Gold. With Robinhood Gold, you don't need a silver spoon to eat up the financial favors of the 1%. Robinhood Gold allows others to get the rates and perks usually reserved only for the high society. Well, now The resourceful individual with Robinhood Gold can earn the very liberal rate of 4.5% APY on uninvested cash and be rewarded with a handsome 3% retirement boost on an IRA account. Robinhood Gold provides the privileges of a high net worth for any net worth. These generous benefits are now available for only $5 a month. The new gold standard is here with Robinhood Gold. Sign up at Robinhood.com/gold. Terms do apply. For specific disclosures, visit Robinhood.com/gold. Investing involves risks. Rate may change. Gold membership is offered by Robinhood Gold LLC. Today's episode is also brought to you by FanDuel. You might know it as America's #1 sports book. And right now, new customers can bet $5 to get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you're going to be able to check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win that first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Coaching news, also kind of out of nowhere in college football. On Thursday, November 7th, Florida announces they are going to retain Billy Napier. He is going to be their coach next year. They wanted to get this out of the way before there were any more for sale signs on the Gainesville house and say, hey, this is our guy. This is who we're sticking with. And it's kind of a gamble for Florida, right? This is year 3. He's 15-18. Things have not gotten better since he came there from Louisiana Lafayette, or I guess the University of Louisiana now, the Raging Cajuns still. And they've announced they're going to stick with him. By the way, that was a guy that Baylor was looking at not all that long ago. You guys remember that? After Rule left? Absolutely. Absolutely. Billy Napier was on that list. God, I think of some of the guys that were rumored to Baylor, both in the one where they got in the cycle they got Matt Rule and the cycle they got Dave Aranda. I think back to that Rule cycle, which was Tom Herman, Sonny Dykes, PJ Fleck. We're all in that. And then it was Matt Rule. And it was like, what? Who is that? And then this time around, Billy Napier was absolutely up at the top of that list. I'm trying to remember who some of the other ones were. If you remember, drop them in the comments. Obviously, Joey McGuire was a focus because the players were tweeting about him. But I'm trying to remember who some of the other ones were. I really only remember Billy Napier. That name coming up a lot. If you remember, drop it in the comments. Some of the other guys rumored for that job. Instead, of course, they go with Dave Aranda. And I did get some messages from some Baylor fan friends this morning or yesterday morning. God, I got to stop doing that about this Napier news. And it was like, what does this mean for Dave Aranda if they're already announcing this during the season? And I'm like, well, I don't think it changes much. I mean, again, I've stuck with this all along. If Baylor makes a bowl game and has a winning record, which I guess are not they're not the same thing. Because he has gone to a bowl game and had a losing record on the season, then I think they stick with him. I don't think they need to make this grand announcement or statement from the AD on Twitter. I don't think they need to do that. I think they'll stick with him. But what fascinated me is looking at it from the other side and wondering if Florida looked at this Dave Aranda situation as kind of a barometer measuring stick for their decision with Billy Napier. Because a big reason why they're sticking with Napier is because they have a good young core on the team, like very young. And the reason is DJ Lagway, Baylor legacy DJ Lagway, the #1 quarterback recruit in the country who picked Florida over Baylor. And I was sitting here thinking, man, if they fire Napier, Lagway might be Sawyer Robertson's successor. We just keep this thing going, right? After next year, obviously. But they have announced they're sticking with Napier, and that's a big reason why. And so I knew he'd had some recruiting momentum last year. I looked at the 2025 recruiting rankings, though. He's 32nd and on 3, Florida is, for the 2025 class. And they're not in the top 50 on 247. They're one spot ahead of Baylor on 3 and at least 18 spots behind them in 247 because 247 is Baylor at number 32, which is where Florida ranks in on 3. Again, 15-18, man, losing record, 3 years. You've given him a shot. And now they're sticking with him because of this young core that they've got. Sounds an awful lot like the Dave Aranda decision last year. Guy was in year 4, losing record, had good young pieces on the team, had some recruiting momentum, got even more once they retained him. And that was a huge reason Mack Rhoades stuck with Dave Aranda. I know this Baylor winning streak is not taking on national attention. I know that. But maybe, just maybe, the powers that be at the University of Florida, a once proud program, is looking over to Baylor and saying, you know, it worked for them. They're going to have a winning record this year. West Virginia won 9 games last year. It worked with them. But more likely, it's a Scott Frost situation, which I thought the Dave Aranda situation was going to be. Hey, we're getting out ahead of this. We're sticking with this guy the same way Nebraska did before Scott Frost last year. And Scott was gone before the end of September the next season. So I'm surprised a program like Florida has as much patience as it does with a guy like Napier. And what's more amazing is when I was first getting into college football, Florida was the program. USC, because it was on the tail end of Pete Carroll with, or I should say, really more the tail end of Matt Leinart, Reggie Bush was when I first started getting into college football. Alabama had not quite risen yet. They didn't have Nick Saban yet. And it was the beginning of Florida. Chris Leak with Urban Meyer, national champs in 06 and 08. And the sheer amount of thugs they had on those teams, man. Oh, brother. But they were so good. They were the top of college football. And they have just not been that in like 15 years. They've had some good teams in there. Kyle Trask got them to the SEC championship game. I almost said Cal Trask, which would be ironic because the book that my laptop is supported on in my home studio is East of Eden with main character Cal Trask. For those of you not read that or seen the brilliant Elia Kazan, James Dean movie. Anyway, I'm getting into circles here, but I'm wondering how much Florida actually saw from that and said, you know what, there's a precedent here. And maybe they're thinking we don't like some of the young guys, but honestly, I mean, Florida, you would think should be making a push for a guy like Rhett Lashley, who has taken SMU to the top 20. And they have had a heck of a year. There's a hot name when he was the OC at OU. And now he's finding success as a head coach at SMU. We'll see how they keep winning in the next few years with Keenan Hall taking all the recruits and bringing them down here to Baylor. But I just think of a guy like that, and it's like, wouldn't you rather try someone like that than go forth with this Billy Napier experiment? But it's DJ Lagway. And if DJ Lagway transfers out of there and hits the portal this offseason, they might rethink the Napier thing. I really do. But a lot of parallels between that and the Dave Aranda decision. So are they looking at Baylor? Are they looking at Baylor for this? Let me know what you think down in the comments below. Let me know what you think about Jonte Cook. Let me know what you think about this game against Arkansas tomorrow. I want score predictions. I want leading scores. I want your biggest change in Baylor from game 1 to game 2. Drop it down in the comment section below. That's what makes these videos so great, is you guys having a community down in the comment section. But be sure to like and subscribe. We're going for 4,000 next. We are not sleeping now. Ring that notification bell to get notified every time we drop a video on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast. Still up in the air what our post-game content's going to be after Arkansas, because I'm going to the game with a credential and I'm driving back, and it's an hour and a half from Dallas. So we'll see. We'll see. It could be a late night one. It could be a Sunday one. Stay tuned for that. We'll keep you updated on Twitter and, of course, on YouTube, where it would premiere anyway. So we'll be back either sometime Saturday or Sunday or Monday on your favorite show, Locked On Baylor.